Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the May 12th, 2026 meeting of the Town of Oyster Bay Landmarks Preservation Commission. Before we start, I would like to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Byrne, will you take a roll call of the members?
Certainly. Chairman DeLeo?
Present?
Member Trevina?
Here.
Member Leonard is absent. Member Gold?
Present.
Member Stone?
Present.
Member Byrne is here. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have three matters on our agenda tonight. The first one we are going to take is 70 East Main Street, Oyster Bay. And anyone who speaks tonight, if you can just please say your name and your address for the record before you address us.
William
Thanks.
Clark. Good evening. William Clark, 70 East Main Street, Oyster Bay.
Good evening, Mr. Clark. Okay, so we had approved most of your application last time you were here and
Correct.
asked to come back to give us some detail on the front porch.
Correct, on the railing.
Yep.
We previously were discussing a wrought iron railing kind of behind the porch supports for the roof. After creating some images with that railing and some other images of a white fence with standard balusters, I think the white fence looks a little better. I have some images I can share with you.
Please, thanks. Thanks.
So the first one there is the wrought iron railing that is kind of behind the posts, behind the supports for the porch roof, which I'm a little less in favor of. I think the second image looks a little more presentable.
Yeah, I think both of them are very nice and appropriate. I think the white railing matches the detail of everything else that's going on the porch. Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions about the detail?
Just to Bill, do you know what was there before? Was it a white, no?
To my knowledge, there was
It was always
never
open.
anything there.
Yeah, it's the
It was
way it
always
is now.
open.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think last time we spoke, the wrought iron and specifically having it black was to make sure we didn't take away from the house itself, since there wasn't anything there before. I mean, the black wrought iron definitely still, allows you to kind of see and draw your eye to the house more than the white railing. The white railing definitely stands out, and I'm not saying it takes away from it in any way. I'm just pointing out that
Yes,
it
yes.
does draw your eye to the railing and
That was
a
my-
little bit more of the detail in the front there.
That was my initial thought as well. I thought the black wrought iron would kind of disappear.
Yeah.
But
So what, just to clarify, what is your preference? Which one are you looking for? The white? Is that the one that you're asking us to approve?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have any other comments, thoughts, questions?
No?
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the white railing as is in this picture. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Approved. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a great evening.
You too.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 193 Buckram Road in Locust Valley, White Spots. Oh, wow.
Sorry, just a moment, my easel came apart. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Killian Hearn. I'm here on behalf of Paul Russo Architect. Would you like my personal address or the office address?
Office address is fine.
114 Birch Hill Road, Locust Valley, New York. Apologies. Before we start, I have some photos for the board.
Sure,
There should be
yep.
a copy for each one. We are doing some very small, simple additions to this house. One here on the back of the house and one off to the side. They are off of the existing kitchen currently. We are matching existing materials. It will be cedar wood shingle painted gray to match what's there. We are attaching to a part of the roof that is currently a flat roof. So our additions will also be flat roof covered with rubber EPDM. If I have some samples of material, if you'd like to see, this is, the cedar shingle. The color, though, is more like this one, a little bit brighter. The current actual roof of the house is an asphalt shingle, but we aren't touching that part. As I said, we're only touching the current flat roof, which is right now rubber EPDM. In the photos we've shown, the first photo in the packet is a photo of the front elevation of the house. There is a mixture of divided light windows. We believe the originals were probably the 2/2, and some windows have been replaced with 6/6. The next photo, I should mention the house from the front elevation looks exactly the same now as it does in this photo, which was taken in 2004. The next photo is a current photo of the rear of the house. It shows the current flat roof that we are adding onto. As you'll see there, there is 6/6 windows. Those are the windows that we are proposing to use in our new additions. Again, to match what's there currently. The next shows the side of that same flat roofed area, which is where our second small addition is being added. Again, we are using 6/6 divided light window there to match what is currently there. The next picture shows the current cedar wood siding. As I said before, it's a natural cedar wood siding painted in a light gray color. The fifth photo shows the flat roofed area, showing the current rubber roofing on the flat roof area. And the last photo just shows a general overview with a quick sketch of where those new additions kind of land in context with the site.
Let me ask you about the rear addition. Is that visible from, is that White Spots Lane as it goes around the back?
It is not. Currently, there is quite a bit of foliage, as you'll see in that last photo. They are very heavy bushes. You cannot see through them.
Okay.
It was noted by whoever visited the site that if that was ever removed, you could technically see the addition, but currently, no, you cannot see it from any part of the street.
No, that is a good point and a good thought. Okay. Yes, the samples that you have, if you could hand those up, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Just the small little bump out here and small little bump out there. So it's just this little.
In the first picture, the 2/2 windows on the first floor of the house, are there 2/2s anywhere else in the house, or is that the only remaining 2/2s?
There are 2/2s on the rear of the house, as you'll see in the next photo.
Oh, I see. Oh, gosh.
On that, I guess from the rear, the
Yeah.
left side of the house has 2/2. Though many of the windows also on the front have been replaced with 6/6.
Was the kitchen original to the house? The flat roof area?
I don't believe so. I believe it was an addition.
Yeah. It seems that way, being
Yeah.
flat and with the EBD. Thank you.
But it is an existing condition for us. It's not something
Sure,
we've
yeah.
done. But yes, I believe that it was an addition to the original house.
So the material is the smaller,
Yes,
and then the
that's
color
the
is the
color.
larger, okay. The shingle material, this isn't any sort of press board, this is wood
It's real
cut?
wood material,
Yeah,
yes.
And it'll match the random widths and sizing
Yes.
to the existing.
Yes.
And just looking at this, the picture of the third to last, the shingle that's wearing, just a thought, is there any thought to do any repainting or any sort of preventive maintenance for areas like this that are starting to wear off, the paint's starting to wear off?
At this time, I'm not entirely sure. I know that the homeowner has been talking about it. I think they're waiting to see how expensive the additions are going to be to see if they can do repainting currently.
Yeah. I would urge them to certainly take whatever preventive maintenance they can. It's,
Understood.
Okay. And do we have square footages? I'm sure it's on the plans.
Yes. The addition to the rear of the house is 144 square feet. It includes a laundry room and a small breakfast nook. The side of the house addition, I believe, is 54 square feet, and it's just a small mudroom.
Okay. Okay, are the windows going to be, are there gonna be shutters on the windows? Or, I know looks like some of the house has, and looks like the area that you're adding onto doesn't, or some of it does, some of it
Part
doesn't.
of them do, part of them do not. We can absolutely add shutters if you would like us to, but seeing as they're not visible from the
Yeah.
street, we didn't feel the need to add them.
No, not saying that we need you to add them, but if they were to be added, I was just gonna ask a little bit about material and,
The thought right
Things
now
like
is
that.
that they're not required.
okay.
Just a question for Mr. Byrne. As a point of order, we have jurisdiction over what we can see from the main street, but since this is a interesting plot of land here where you're surrounded by three sides, do we truly have jurisdiction over the rear of the house in this case?
So, yes, anything that's visible from a public right-of-way
So any of those three streets?
The code doesn't really talk about landscaping, and that's why when we had the discussion with Mr. Russo's office, we said just in case, especially with the side addition that's along the driveway, if one of the bushes, dies and they replace it with a small one, you would be able to see that one very easily. So we said, come to the board and let's just look at it all. So it's anything that's visible from a public right-of-way.
Got it.
Okay.
But in this case, with the landscaping, you really can't see much, if
Yeah.
anything.
Currently.
Does anyone on the board have any questions, comments?
Just wanted to add, I was fortunate to meet with the homeowners over the weekend, husband and wife, and I was very impressed that the plaque that they have for the history on this property going back to 1665 and all the owners and the history on it was very impressive, so I wanted to thank them for that very much. That was great.
Okay, well, it looks like from the samples that you provided, it looks like the shingle matches closely. The asphalt roof is the asphalt roof. I mean, matching that is, that may not be period, but that's all you can do. Okay. If there aren't any other questions or comments, I move to approve or recommend the application for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
Thank you very much.
all good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the third item on for tonight is 815 Convent Road. Do we have an applicant? Well, actually, I should say, this is a presentation discussion to determine whether the application, it will move forward tonight. So not a formal application at this point, but we're discussing whether this
Yes,
has the merit to go forward.
thank you.
Okay?
Name and address?
Yes.
Jeanette Miller, 14 Woodstone Court in Huntington Station. Good evening, honored members of the Town of Oyster Bay Landmark Preservation Commission. We thank you in advance for your time this evening in considering Our Lady of Mercy Academy on Convent Road in Syosset for this distinguished recognition of a historical landmark. Here is a quick rundown of our agenda for this evening. First, we will start with introductions, followed by a history of the Academy. We will present highlights regarding the interiors of the building, followed by the exteriors and their historical significance. And finally, we will conclude with some closing remarks. So as I introduced myself, my name is Jeanette Miller. I am a 1994 alumna of the Academy, an aunt to 5 graduates, mother, Long Island native and resident, former business executive and soon-to-be business educator. I am also the president of the OLMA Preservation Coalition, a 501(c) nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering young women and supporting and sustaining all girls' faith-driven education, although I am not presenting in that capacity this evening. I will speak briefly about the history of the Academy and its cultural significance. Preservation Long Island is a 501(c) nonprofit organization committed to working with Long Islanders to celebrate and preserve our diverse cultural and architectural heritage through advocacy, education, and the stewardship of historical sites and collections. This application was submitted 2 years ago, so unfortunately, my co-presenter, Ms. Tara Cubby, an architectural historian, is no longer with the organization, and a stand-in for her was unavailable to co-present with me this evening. but I will share her professional statement, which speaks to the building's architectural importance and landmark justification. Additionally, we submit to you personal letters of support from the community and cite a change.org petition with close to 10,000 signatures advocating for the importance of the Academy when its closure was announced in January of 2024. I do encourage you to read the inspiring and moving comments that were submitted by the signees. And here's just 3 copies of our letters of support. I would like to start tonight's presentation with a brief history of the school and its operating structure as we understand it. In 1855, the Sisters of Mercy, a Catholic religious order founded in Dublin, Ireland, came to Brooklyn, New York. In 1862, they built their convent in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. In the early 1900s, they purchased the roughly 96 acres on the North Shore of Long Island from a Dutch farmer to establish a campus in Syosset, including a convent, a residential facility, and the school. In 1928, Our Lady of Mercy Academy opened its doors as a boarding school to 11 students, growing to 30 students by year end. During World War II in the early 1940s, the Academy contributed to the war efforts, Victory Gardens, food stamps and rationing, and weekly instruction in first aid. English students were sent to the Academy to escape the bombing in Europe. And finally, the school's 117-foot tower served as a turning point for young aviators training in the local airfields on Long Island. In 1964, with the burgeoning population on Long Island, the Academy was converted from a boarding school to a day school. And in 1978, after 3 years of fundraising led by Sister Kieran, the principal at the time, and 6 dedicated parents, the athletic complex opened its doors. The Academy continued to thrive for the next 40 years, but as the Brooklyn Sisters of Mercy dwindled in number, on or around 2017, they consolidated their assets as a local chapter up to the national level and ceded the school and surrounded properties to the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas, which is headquartered in Silver Springs, Maryland. And sadly, in January of 2024, citing declining enrollment and financial struggles, the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas made the decision to close the school. For 95 years, Our Lady of Mercy Academy educated and nurtured the women of Long Island, empowering the approximate 10,000 alumni to be leaders in their professions and communities. Without the gender pressures and norms of a typical coeducational environment, coupled with a keen focus on the unique needs and talents of young women, students underwent a transformative experience within its 4 walls. The social environment 95 years ago, and in some ways even today, was such that women were viewed less than, intellectually, physically, and emotionally. But by creating an environment where young women were celebrated, the Academy and its prodigy thrived. Let's discuss the Academy's environment. Steeped in honor and tradition, the building's interiors were revered by students, faculty, and visitors. Never a foot would step on the hand-laid mosaic seal in the entrance lobby, so respected that it was often referred to as, quote-unquote, the parting of the Red Sea, as students walking down the hallway would bow out to walk around the seal. The center hall marble staircase, or senior stairs, its use a privilege granted to senior students. Mass, graduations, choral concerts, induction ceremonies, and celebrations bestowed in the chapel. And theatrical presentations, plays, dances, fundraisers, and sporting events prior to the construction of the Athletic Center in 1974 in the auditorium. Uniquely Mercy traditions such as Sister Days, Spirit Week, and Beloved Sports Night allowed young women to not only showcase their creative talents and leadership abilities, but form tight-knit bonds and friendships lasting through their lives, a sisterhood in its truest sense. I would like to now read the statement prepared by Ms. Cubby, which speaks to the architectural significance of the building, a copy of which is in front of you. Dear members of the Town of Oyster Bay Landmark Preservation Commission, I am writing in support of the designation of Our Lady of Mercy Academy as a local landmark, recognizing its significant contributions to the architectural and educational heritage of the Syosset community. Constructed in 1928 for the Sisters of Mercy of Brooklyn, Our Lady of Mercy Academy stands as an excellent example of Georgian Revival architecture designed by the renowned architect Émile Georges Perrault. Perrault, whose works spanned ecclesiastic and academic buildings, is widely recognized for his architectural contributions, which include notable projects at Immaculata College, Fordham University, and Georgetown University. His design for Our Lady of Mercy Academy was inspired by Independence Hall, reflecting classical architectural principles with its symmetrical form, tower topped with a cross, and elegant details like the cornice with dentils and brick pattern. Since its completion in 1928, the building has maintained a high degree of historical integrity. Its original location at the intersection of Convent Road and Southwoods Road in Syosset remains unchanged, as do its overall design, materials, and workmanship. While an auditorium was constructed between 1974 and 1980, the core structure has remained intact, allowing the building to retain its original character and feeling. Our Lady of Mercy Academy appears to meet the level of significance necessary to qualify for the National Registry of Historic Places under Criterion C, architecture as an excellent example of Georgian Revival style architecture constructed by master architect Émile Georges Perrault. Our Lady of Mercy Academy therefore meets and exceeds the historical significance necessary for listing as a historical landmark within the Town of Oyster Bay. The school is also significant locally and regionally for its role as a college preparatory women's school. For these reasons, I submit that Our Lady of Mercy Academy more than qualifies for landmark designation. Its architectural excellence and its significance as a longstanding educational institution in our community make it a deserving candidate, and I urge the Commission to support this designation and preserve the legacy of this important site. In closing, we thank you again for your time in considering this application. Before parting ways, I would like to leave you with one final thought. As discussed, the Academy structure, and specifically its tower, was modeled off of Independence Hall in Philadelphia. And while Independence Hall has served as a beacon of American hope and independence, so too has the Academy's tower served as a beacon for our community, that through the empowerment and education of women, women too could achieve true independence in society. Therefore, we beseech you to proceed with granting this historical landmark honor so that the Academy may live on as a beacon of hope, independence, and inspiration for the future generations of our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the presentation. So, couple thoughts.
Do I stand there or sit there?
Well, we do have some questions, but we can wait until after, if there is anyone else who would like to speak and present tonight, we might ask you for questions afterwards.
Okay.
Is there anyone else to either present or have a comment on the pre-application? Yeah, we'll just take an order. Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Good evening. My name's Carolyn Mahan. My address is 1 North Hills Road in East Norwich. I just want to say that I support everything Jeanette presented. I have 3 daughters who graduated from Our Lady of Mercy. It is a magical place that really needs to be preserved. And I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, anyone else?
I'm here for Sisters of Mercy, so I don't know if you want me to go yet, or are you waiting for anyone?
Yeah, let's have it, and then we'll hash out questions afterwards.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Elisabetta Cascignano, son Ward Braff Cascignano, located at 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York, 11553, on behalf of the Sisters of Mercy, owners of the subject property, which includes the building that the applicant is seeking to landmark. Also in attendance this evening with me is our expert, David Mamina, registered architect with vast experience in these landmark matters. Initially, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, for the opportunity to hear our opposition to this request for landmark designation by the applicant, Jeanette Miller. We understand that the purpose of tonight's hearing is for the board to determine whether or not they will actually hear this application for landmark status, and should the board decide to do so, a public hearing will be held in the future. At the outset, Ms. Miller did a great job of, presenting the the history of the property, and the Sisters of Mercy have owned it since the late 1800s. The purpose for the property was to build a community school. Obviously, the sisters do appreciate and are extremely connected to this property, its history, and the school. Initially used as a boarding school, later a day school, and of course, they are deeply saddened by the closing of the academy. However, as evidenced by their 10-year lease with Long Island School for the Gifted, they wish to continue its intended use for the property for the education of children. They still run Mercy First, and they have, they utilize the property themselves. They have no intention of selling this property. However, they also are against designating this property a historic landmark. As times have changed and the school has taken many forms, the latest as Our Lady of Mercy Academy with only high school-aged children, times continue to change and the future is certainly unknown. To landmark this 90-plus acre property would be very detrimental to the sisters and potentially cause them a catastrophic financial loss in the future. Their desire is to continue to maintain use as a school for the education of children, but as we all know, circumstances change and that may not be possible. They do have a long-term lease with the Long Island School for the Gifted, and they do intend to renew that lease if and when the time comes at the end or close to the expiration of the lease. I will call up Mr. Mamina to provide his background and testimony relative to the town's criteria for landmarking. It is our position that the application does not meet the town's criteria, and as such, the commission should not move forward on hearing it in a public hearing. Pursuant to town code, the commission is directed to consider the special character, ambiance, historical significance, aesthetic value, and uniqueness of architectural design of the proposed landmark. We submit that the applicant's submission and the subject premises fails to meet these criteria. Mr. Mamina will testify as to all of this. He has an extensive background in evaluating properties with potential historic or landmark significance throughout New York. In addition to his experience managing countless projects throughout his career, he currently serves as chairman of the Town of Southold Historic Preservation Commission. His portfolio does include religious institutions, healthcare, senior housing, multifamily developments, and many, many more. He has worked closely with the Diocese of Rockville Center on the renovation and preservation of numerous churches and parish buildings, often navigating the complexities of aging structures and local preservation guidelines. His deep familiarity with New York State and New York City landmark regulations, combined with his technical understanding of historic building materials and construction, makes him a valuable asset in assessing properties for potential landmark designation. He has conducted several site visits, reviewed the original building plans, and researched Emile Perrault, the architect that designed the school, to form the basis for his expert opinion. We have provided that to the board. He will provide additional copies this evening. He has concluded, among other things, that Mr. Perrault is in no way classified as a master architect, as referenced in Criterion C of the National Register of Historic Places, and as alleged in the applicant's submissions. He has made the following findings in his analysis of the subject property: that the school was not of special character or ambiance, that no events of historical note took place at the school, and that the school's architectural design is not unique or of aesthetic value. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Mamina to testify to, his report and all of his findings.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. David Mamina, architect. And if I could, I would just like to pass up a packet that I put together. I have three in color.
Here we go, right to Mr. Byrne over
Okay.
here.
Three in color, so I might ask that maybe the chairman hold one of the color and you share. I also have two black and white, just color print for my print. So thank you very much. And as was said by Ms. Cosignano, my background in historic preservation is long and I think broad. And I will include my thesis project at Pratt Institute in 1975, was for South Street Seaport. Before the fish market had even closed, it was still there, but all of the buildings had been deemed abandoned by the city, and it was the 100th anniversary of the United States of America, and the New York State Parks Department had put forward a design competition for a museum that would show the history of Schermerhorn Row. And I entered that competition, and I was very proud that I won that competition, and that the Parks Department did build this little museum, and it was indeed part of the beginning of Schermerhorn Row down there. And since then, I had also done the conversion of several of the brownstone buildings into hotels, where dealing with the historic character of those first floor areas and how hotel windows now would illuminate in a similar way to the way that they would when it was indeed an occupied brownstone. I've done numerous projects before the New York City's Landmarks Conservation Agency, who can be very tough. And as was said, the Diocese of Rockville Center, I did numerous churches for them, many of which had landmark characteristics, and worked on those as well. And I don't want to go on and on. But, and just to make it clear, I love landmarks. And preserving landmarks is certainly a career goal, of mine. I was once told by a good friend who grew up in Poland, and he said, "Mamina, you guys have no history." He said, "You knock it down. You knock it down and you build these other things in place." And that is true. And in this case, nobody's looking to knock anything down. And I'll go into just a couple of other quick points. Is just in terms of what was said, I mean, there was a presentation made regarding the interiors. And also, I will backtrack for a second, say that both of my daughters went to Our Lady of Mercy and got a wonderful education there. One of them was the AAA student, and the one was kind of the I don't care too much B student. And I will never forget just showing that level of care. They would have Chaminade and Our Lady of Mercy dances. And so I was chaperoning one night, and I was at a door with one of the sisters, and she said, "So what do you think?" So I figured I'll give her the answer that she's looking for. And I said, "Oh, my daughter Sarah, she's such a good student." And I said, "But I just wish that Nicole would work a little harder." And he said, "You know what? Here's the way I look at it, Mr. Mamina. Your daughter Sarah, very smart girl. She's nervous as could be. She's high-strung because she has to achieve. Your daughter, who's the B student, she's very happy. She gets her B grades. She doesn't feel that same level of pressure. So I'm just saying, look at how, within the education, yes, it was done very, very well. But unfortunately, it really doesn't have anything to do with landmarking, the building, nor does the interiors. The interiors are gorgeous. There's no doubt about it. They are magnificent, and I don't know, maybe they deserve landmarking. I don't know. But cultural significance is really also is no consideration, in terms of landmarking. A building. Many buildings have cultural significance. And the 1978 complex was spoken of, and as I'll show in my presentation, I will say, unfortunately, it diminishes any considered landmarking of the building. As was said by, I think, Member Stone, what you see from the street is what we're landmarking. And that's certainly true in the town of Southold, and that's what we comment on, is what do you see from the street? That magnificent front of the building, that colonnade and all those things that they show, that's the back of the building. At one time, it might have been the front of the building, but it's not used in that way. I never even knew it was there, nor did my daughters. I said, Dad, we never went out any of those doors. Nothing ever happened, there. We went to their graduation. But it is lovely, okay? That other elevation is very nice, but we do not see it from the street. As a matter of fact, if you go back about 40 feet or so, there's a steep drop-off in the grade, that's there. So moving past that, as was said, I've really done a very thorough review, of the building. And, based on that review, I just don't see any justification for granting a landmark status under the criteria that's set forth by the National Register of Historic Places, which, has its list, which the committee is well aware of. So just beginning, where I have Town of Oyster Bay application for landmarks designation is deficient. And that goes straight off of the paperwork prepared. Under the line asking for organization, it's blank. So I would say it's obvious that the sisters don't support it, which we know that they don't, and we'll see, further evidence, of that. And, I guess to the credit of the young lady that spoke before, they weren't writing their name down as if they were, excuse me, the owner. I then go on to say that according to a Newsday article that was put out in December, and I say it's reasonable to conclude the following, and then you'll see it in the article. The organization behind the application is the OLMA Preservation Coalition, a newly formed independent nonprofit entity. This is from Newsday. The coalition appears to have established in direct response to the announcement of the closure of Our Lady of Mercy Academy as a high school for girls. Its likely sole purpose is to propose any proposed development of the subject property. And I do think that's important. Its likely sole purpose is to oppose any proposed development of the subject property. Newsday's words, not mine. It is also significant to note that the sisters, the property owners, are opposed to the landmark designation, as was already said. They have no plans to reopen the school. They have entered into a lease agreement with the Syosset-based Long Island School for the Gifted, LISG, as reported by Newsday Exhibit A, and the lease term is for 10 years, with the school expected to take occupancy between 2025 and 2026. And I think we know that the School for the Gifted is there. They moved from just further down the road, over to Our Lady of Mercy. And if we go to Exhibit A, you'll see the Newsday article. Okay, and this is the picture that was on the front of that. And it says shuttered girls' school building in Syosset to be leased to gifted program, but not everyone is happy. So Newsday took that picture, of the sign out front, and you could see the building in the background, and part of what I'll say, about that and what you see from the street, I'll say later on. But it says Our Lady of Mercy Academy in Syosset will be leased to the school for the gifted children next year. Okay, and then it credits Newsday. The building that housed Our Lady of Mercy Academy has stood vacant since shuttering in June, but the reopening of its doors to a new generation of students in the Long Island School for the Gifted has reignited hard feelings for members of the coalition who fought to save the original academy. And believe me, I understand their connection, with the building, but again, we're talking about landmarking. The Sisters of Mercy of the Americas confirmed in an email they will lease the property to the independent South Huntington School for 10 years beginning in May. The Sisters of Mercy are delighted that the building will continue to be used to educate local children, reads the statement provided by spokesman Bob Keenan. The move has stirred strong sentiments among some former faculty, alumni, and students that established the OLMA Preservation Coalition to salvage the near-century-old institution, either by partnering with the sisters or leasing the property and creating their own school. So then it went on to say what Newsday's found. The Sisters of Mercy will lease a Syosset building that housed an all-girls Catholic school. I don't have to read the whole thing. You have it in front of you. The plan is eliciting strong emotions, which it says, and in previous letters to the coalition created to save the school, the sisters said that their Syosset property would not continue to be used as the school. And the nuns further cited financial deficit amid declining enrollment for all-girls Catholic school closures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think for anyone, who, I'm not saying you even have to be Catholic to know this, but I do know for myself, Catholic schools are closing left and right. And they just are, or they're merging, and, so there's been a drop-off, in those types of uses of buildings. And, there have been adaptive reuses that a parish, which covers a large geographic area, might use in some other way. But in this case, the sisters really don't have any intent of repurposing this building. They already have. It's repurposed. And it just goes on to tell you to sign up for the Newsday TV letter, which I'm sure you're not interested in. And again, I'll attempt not to read every single word, but I did put a lot of work into this. So members of the coalition feels that the nuns' newly announced plan is at odds with their previous position that the property would not be used for a new school. So in February, a letter to the nuns, the coalition had asked to be notified if the sisters had no interest or had no other plans. And in March, that was responded to, and a new school, the letter clarified, is not an option on their property. So the sisters have made it very clear, that it is not an option. And the School for the Gifted, we're going over that again, and the length of the lease, all of that. And I guess then it was, while partly relieved, the property will continue to serve as a children's learning institution, Miller said she doesn't understand why the offers from the coalition were rejected. Why wouldn't you want to work with people who loved it? It just doesn't make sense. And again, I don't want to go through, all of that, and the sisters made what they called a difficult decision with a 45% drop in enrollment over a decade. I could be wrong on this number, but my understanding was that as of whatever it was, 2024, there were less than 100 students that wanted to go to the school. They couldn't support it. Okay, and this goes into data regarding the enrollment and then sentiments, from the group that, that is here for the reasons that they're here, which are legitimate reasons, but really don't have anything to do with landmarking. I'm going to come to Exhibit B. And in Exhibit B, when we start to talk about what do we see from the street as we look at a building landmarked. And, you know, it's irrefutable that when you look at it from the street up the driveway, there's a building. Okay, but we are looking at the back of the building, and I will actually show you architectural construction documents from when the building was constructed. It's in the packet that show that it's the back of the building. And it will also show that the entrance to the building is nothing more than a vinyl canopy that's, you know, that's in there. The windows, which originally were 6-over-6 windows, and the chairman was, you know, speaking with another applicant regarding that, have all been removed. They're replaced with kind of home improvement 1-over-1s with break metal aluminum on them. There's air conditioning that's out on setbacks of the building, but even more so, I took that first photo because there was a gymnasium addition that was done onto the building, which you'll see directly connects to the building. It's completely out of context with the, you know, with the requested landmarking of the building that is there. And from my perspective, as an architect, you know, as a chairman, just the fact that very, very odd, and if you go, you'll see other pictures of it, more pictures. You could see in the third one where there's a direct connection. It's different brick color. It's different articulation. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. And when it was built as a gymnasium. There is a gymnasium, and the building was very small. It doesn't serve. But, so, this to me, again, I look at it and I say it so diminishes, you know, any landmarking. I do know at my own commission, and I'm sure yours as well, if someone had, you know, a home that was built in 17 whatever, you wouldn't let somebody, you know, do a brick addition of a garage, you know, that's connected to it and has abstract forms, you know, on it. It just wouldn't tie into that, you know, in any way. And I think that is what we have here. Okay, and then when we go to the next page, which is chapter 225, and this is just your form that needs to be filled out. And, you know, it talks about trees, you know, in there, which is very important, and I love it. I think that it's something I'll show everyone in Southold. We're not taking, this has nothing to do with trees, you know, and if nothing, and I'll get to it a little bit further, and this just shows what your powers are, so, I mean, it's just being thorough. The one slide that the young lady put up there showed how beautifully treed the entire campus is. And no trees were taken down, but there were trees, a large amount of trees had been taken down by the sisters to create that playing field. And you see that in there, and I'm not saying they did something terrible. My daughter played lacrosse. Both of them did, you know, and soccer on those fields. So I'm just saying, you could argue that maybe they should have come here. I'm not arguing that. That's not really where I'm going, you know, at all with this. So the rest of this is really just all of your requirements. Okay, so as we go to Exhibit D, which talks about master architects, and, you know, what is a master architect? And my contention, which I will certainly point to, is why the architect of this building could not possibly be considered a master architect. I mean, here's just a tiny handful of master architects. You say their name, the world knows who they are. I mean, you got Frank Lloyd Wright, Le Corbusier, and Gaudi, or at least the architects know who they are. You know, we have Zaha Hadid on the other side. I just kind of go down, you know, a whole list of very famous people. Eero Saarinen, now the TWA building, which is at Kennedy Airport, that was designed by him, and it is a national landmark, and it's being restored now as a hotel. The architecture itself is immaculately being held in place. So it just shows, you know, the types of buildings, you know, that were done. If we talk about the Guggenheim Museum, pretty much everybody knows about the Guggenheim Museum. And I did have a biography of Emile Perrault that I found. It was the only thing I could find about him. I could find nothing else. And within it, you know, he certainly was an architect. He worked for, you know, various firms. He did some buildings, you know, so did I. Probably did 150 buildings. Far from makes me a master architect. But what it does go on to say was that he was a contentious person. He was asked to leave the AIA, which is the American Institute of Architects, was later instituted or invited to join again, and then was much more interested in reinforced concrete and the reuse of industrial buildings and concrete frames. And, you know, so I don't see, you know, really where, you know, that comes into, you know, a master architect in any way. You know, and then that goes on. Then we go to the next exhibit. What I show in there is I gave it the benefit of the doubt. The driveway, as you probably all know, is, I don't know, probably close to a quarter of a mile long. But I said, you know, let me get right up in front, and I'll show, you know, I'll show what's there. That's okay. I didn't stand all the way back and get across the street. You know, the way I look at it is lots of buildings have steeples on them. That doesn't make it a landmark, and I will continue, you know, with that. But without getting into reading or anything, if you look at this photo, and if you look at the left-hand side of the building, and you look at the right-hand side of the building, the left-hand side of the building is 3 stories, Georgian Revival. It's got the cornice on the top, all of that. If you look at the right-hand side, that was built as a 2-story piece, and then the top piece is brick. It's just brick with some kind of a stone band or something that doesn't have any of the architectural detail in it. When it's compared to Independence Hall, it's in the courtyard that it creates is very irregular in its shape. These two forms don't speak to each other. It's off-center, and we'll come to those things with other photographs. So if we turn again, we see that physical connection between the gymnasium building and the school. Again, just further showing that the two have nothing to do with each other. If you look at the photo of the windows that are in there, you see that those are 1/1s, and they are, again, regular aluminum replacement windows. I don't put it in here, but I did climb up onto the roof, and that bell tower has aluminum siding on it. So all I'm saying is, again, historic landmark buildings, part of that is the essence of how they were built and the preservation, you know, of that. And just flipping over to Exhibit G, which I found fascinating to look at the whole set of construction drawings. But it does call that part of the building the rear elevation, okay? And that is the steeple is pushed way back from there. None of that detail exists anymore. Where you see that entrance, okay, I'll just say with the peaked roof over it instead of getting real architectural, that now is all gone. It's just a vinyl awning, which you'll see, you know, with some pipes on it. Where you see the railings on that left-hand side of that all has air conditioning equipment sitting on it. the form's not balanced, it doesn't have that same thing on the other side, and you can see that the left side and the right side don't match each other. And we're getting there. Okay, if we go to Exhibit H, all right, this is Sewanaka High School. Now, Sewanaka High School is much more Georgian Revival and is called Georgian Revival when you look at it. And you see the difference in it. You see the colonnade in the front. You see the 3 stories. You see the divided light windows. I mean, they're still in there. I mean, they put some tacky little things over the top, but, you know, I'm just saying the spirit of it, you see the low balustrade that's over the top of it. You see the balance in the form, even with the wings that go off to the sides. It was clearly an attempt made here to do something that was architecturally significant. On the next page is Southold High School. Again, it's got a steeple. This, again, is closer to Georgian Revival, certainly, than Our Lady of Mercy is. It's got a balanced elevation, the colonnade, the whole 9 yards. The steeple is set back as it's supposed to be. Just continuing through, now we get to Independence Hall. And I don't see how any comparison could be made between Our Lady of Mercy, even the opposing elevation, that if you want to call that side the front. I mean, they're 2 completely different animals. I mean, the proportion of Independence Hall, I mean, look, it's a national landmark, has been forever. That colonnade, that with arches connecting the two legs coming out, creating this geometrically perfect rectangle, that's what Georgian Revival, you know, is all about. And I just show these things. Well, I have another Independence Hall at the bottom, and then I just show, you know, the east wing on the upper right-hand side. You can see one wing comes out further than the other wing, and, you know, it's. Then just my last thing, and this is the first time I've ever noticed it, and I've come to Oyster Bay a million times in my life, but as you pass over Northern Boulevard and you go up the little rise and you come down, there's a sign that says, "Welcome to Historic Oyster Bay." And I never saw that sign before, but certainly, if you go beyond that, and I am a cyclist, and we used to cycle up there all the time, and when we got up to the corner there, like right near here, and I'd get off my bike and I'd say to people, look at that building on the corner. You see this? You see? Yeah, and not really realizing where I'd be going in my career, you know, at that point. But part of what I talk about in here is, and the picture is up on the wall in there, if we want to talk about Sagamore Hill, okay, and Teddy Roosevelt, I mean, that is a national landmark. It is one of 9,000 in the United States of America where there are over 1 million just, I'll call them plain old landmark buildings, which I'm not knocking, you know, landmark preservation, I'm all about it. But what I show in this exhibit is that if we look at that point in Oyster Bay, down by West Main Street that I'm talking about, which is really kind of right outside of where we're sitting now, that in and of itself, if it's not designated an historic district, I think it could be. Those buildings in there, the one that's on the corner, is that across from the hardware store? I don't know. That was Teddy Roosevelt's summer office. That was where he went. His secretary lived, I think, diagonally across the street. And, you know, I mean, that whole part of Oyster Bay, you know, was where he lived. And then, of course, Sagamore Hill, you know, you just go, whoops, I'm sorry, up and around the bend. It's murder riding up that hill on the bike, but, you know, then, you know, it's great seeing the house up there. And the other thing just that I showed here, you know, is just to make the point, is that here's where Our Lady of Mercy School is, here's where this historic part of Oyster Bay is, and they're almost 9 miles apart from each other. I mean, and the building just kind of stands alone by itself. And, you know, I did then also find in all of my digging, this is a listing then of all of these buildings that are on this immediate proximity that are worthy of landmarking. So, with that said, I will thank you for your patience, and I would like to say one thing. I had a wonderful career of 50 years, and the last 12 of them were at H2M Architects and Engineers. I still wear my little lapel, but I retired. Last May, we had started this project before that. Rich Human, who's the CEO and a wonderful man, said, you know what, Dave, you can still present it and, you know, do whatever you need with our records. He said, but just please tell them that you're now retired, so you're kind of here on your own time. So, thank you all, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Just to finish up, you know, I know you heard Mr. Mamina's daughters went to Our Lady of Mercy Academy. My children all went to Catholic school from nursery, and my youngest is graduating now from high school, Catholic high school, and I can see the level of support and emotion that's in this room, and I can understand it. I empathize. If they were to close my child's school that they went to, I think I would probably be heartbroken. And so our opposition does not come from a place of, you know, lack of understanding. We understand. But we also represent a client, and the sisters also understand, and they also suffered a deep loss when this school has closed. But again, that doesn't mean it should be landmarked. They certainly would like to continue to operate this school with the tenant that's there now, and that is their specific desire. It is our position that the application should not go forward based on what you've heard this evening. And I'll conclude with that. And thank you for your time. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you. All right, thank you for both presentations. That is a lot of information that I think we need to sort through. First and foremost, I just want to make, yes, please.
I think there's two people that want to speak.
Okay.
Board members, my name is Tara Fitzpatrick, 411 Bayville Avenue, Bayville, New York. I'm a 1985 graduate. My 3 older sisters are also graduates of the academy. I also have 5 brothers who went to Chaminade, so my parents believed in Catholic education. Just 2 questions for Elizabeth, who I know. Do the sisters know when the lease is up? When does this lease end?
10 years from when they signed.
10 years.
It's only been signed, you know.
Right.
recently.
And can I ask why the sisters don't want this marked as a landmark?
Well, because, like I said to the board, things change in the future. They don't want to be prohibited from any type of opportunity.
Is it because if you landmark something, if you declare something a landmark, you risk that things can be done in the future, and that it might decrease the value?
It could decrease the value.
Right. And they would be limited on certain things possibly in the future that they could do, like construction-wise, whatever.
They have not contemplated
Okay.
anything. I'm just letting you
Are you
know.
sure?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm 100% sure.
And also, my parents were one of the parents who worked with Sister Kieran to build the gymnasium. So, which was back, and as far as the trees, my older sister graduated in 1975, so I've been on the property for a long time. They didn't really take down a lot of trees, trust me. There was always fields in the front of the school, which most people think is the back, as your gentleman. So I just don't understand the dwindling of why they don't want to have a landmark. The sisters are dwindling, as is Catholic education across the country. You see the schools closing. There's going to be less nuns. I mean, sadly, the sisters are probably non-existent in the future, which is sad, because Sister Kieran was one of my parents' closest friends, as is Sister Margaret Ann, her biological sister, also a sister. So I really think the Sisters of Mercy should really go back to your client and just, they should make it a landmark, because it'll be historical for when, in the future, when there are no more Sisters of Mercy, which hopefully doesn't happen, this will be gone as well, their legacy. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, please, come on up.
My name is Bernadette Cuevas. I live at 118 Buttercup Lane in Huntington. I am also an alumni of Our Lady of Mercy, a parent of a student. Many family members went there. I left Long Island, came back to Long Island. I raised my family here. I grew up as a town of Oyster Bay, in the town of Oyster Bay. One of the things that we all see here is overdevelopment on Long Island. I mean, you can see by the traffic. It's changed so much over the years. But I've traveled from work, and I go places and I meet people from all parts of Long Island. And when I tell them where I went to school or where my daughter went to school, people knew it as a landmark. It didn't matter if they were Jewish, or if they went to Catholic school, they went to public school. Everybody that's been to Syosset in that area has known that building and that beautiful green space, because there isn't a lot of green space left. A lot of Long Island is overdeveloped, and you all spend your time here trying to make sure that every piece of property in your town is unique and is honest to what it was supposed to be, right? Like, you sat here and you went through that building that they're expanding, and you talked about, you know, the old attachment that they built onto and how it wasn't exactly the same and how to preserve. So these are all really important things. And if you look at Google and you think about what is a landmark, it says it's a recognizable natural or man-made feature that stands out from its environment, used for navigation or as a reference point. And I feel like, and I know many people have said this, that space is a landmark because it is a reference point. People will say, oh, on Convent Road, that building, when you drive up the driveway, it stands out. There's not very many buildings like that on Long Island. You know, we have very few of them. So I really hope that you'll consider this application, because regardless of religion or the history of the sisters, the history of the building is very important, and it was a landmark, and it was a point of navigation for World War II aviators. They used it as a point of reference. Like, that's a point of navigation. That's very important, and it's a space that we don't have that much green space anymore. We just don't. 90 acres in Syosset is a beautiful green space that we are so lucky to see and drive by if you're in the area. So I hope you'll consider it.
Yep, thank you. Yes, please, come on up.
Pardon my grumbies, I came straight from work. I'm a network engineer. My name is Eileen Coles, 28 Pearsall Avenue, Glen Cove, New York. I married into the Coles family that founded the city of Glen Cove. My husband was from that family. I know all about historical buildings. I actually was privileged to live in the Coles house, the oldest house in Glen Cove. I value history greatly. I am a 1980 alumnus of Our Lady of Mercy Academy. I am a National Merit Finalist and a Regents Scholar. I did very well because of that high school. They encouraged me to grow and learn under circumstances that were not ordinary. I also am very high-functioning ADHD, but I tested in the top 2 percentile of my peers on the PSATs and the SATs. Now, I would like to beg to differ with the architect gentleman in that cultural significance doesn't matter when it comes to landmarking, because if you look at Our Lady of Mercy Academy, not from the street, but from its deeds in empowering 10,000 women to better themselves and become productive members of society. As you can see by my hat, I'm a Air Force veteran also, Desert Storm. All of those women were allowed to grow and learn in a safe and harassment-free environment, and that today is like gold. The reason that the Catholic Church is losing the ability to operate schools is related to some very dark things that are going on in our society right now. And in this environment of darkness, what Our Lady of Mercy was, you can see, not from the street, but from space. It shines like a beacon of what we really should be as a nation. It empowered women in a harassment-free environment, 10,000 women. And over 9,000 people signed that petition to make that building a landmark. And it's not just about the building, it's about what the people did. The Sisters of Mercy gave us a place to operate in a safe, harassment-free environment and become the best people we could be. That is why Our Lady of Mercy should be a landmark, because we need a symbol like that right now in our country. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify some points that were brought up. First, I am personally elated that they're leasing the school. I think that was a very happy day, coming off of a lot of sadness for many of us. But I'm not sure if it's clear that the current owners are no longer local. While the Brooklyn Sisters of Mercy, so their client, there are maybe 5 of them left residing on that campus. In 2017, all of the property was deeded to the national chapter. So in essence, we have an institution that is based in Maryland making decisions about our local community, which does not feel right, in my opinion. That's why, I submitted this application. I know the gentleman cited an article from December. We were shocked. We thought, to Ms. Cuevas's comment, I submitted the application April of 2024. That was 9 months before any of this turmoil. We were shocked that it wasn't a landmark. We all were under the impression that the building already was, hence the reason why I had submitted that application. And again, I know they're citing finances. I'm clearly here representing myself. They're clearly here with attorneys and paid help. Again, while the Brooklyn Sisters have dwindled in number, I implore you to consider them as a larger organization, that they did become very wealthy when all of these local chapters were forced to give up their individual properties into the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas. So yes, while I do appreciate, finances, obviously money is not endless. I don't think that the full story is being presented to you about them. I think they're telling a story about these local sisters, but we're forgetting that they're part of a much larger umbrella organization at this point in time. And then just to contradict, you are correct that I can't speak to why they developed the back part of the building. I'm guessing you might know more why Convent Road became more popular than Southwoods Road, and the back side of the building was favored over the front. But certainly in later years, when the athletic field was put in, the main road going up was in use. That was considered one of the more primary roads coming into and out of the building, the more beautiful portico that you had referenced. So I think while the back of the building was favored, probably just because of development, and that seemed the more easier access point. It was not that the architectural portions of the building were not in use in later years. You know, and I think the gentleman had referenced, you know, it's been a struggle for me. I mean, I'm certainly just a citizen. I am not an architect. I can't speak to all of the points that he is, and I think, you know, but you know, we reference that we have no history, right? You know, you said it yourself. Your Polish friend comes here. If not a building that's 100 years old, then what is history? I mean, I think that's the point, right? That's the point is, you know, we are a young country. No, we don't have thousands of years of history under our belts. We have 100 of years worth of history under our belts. And if citizens like myself are not willing to stand up for those, to protect those buildings that have, you know, survived with us for those hundreds of years, you know, then how do we ever create that significance if we're not willing to stand behind things that have survived the test of time? I know you mentioned you had some questions. Can I address them for you, or?
Sure.
Excuse me, I'll do my best.
Sure. So, you know, I have some comments before I ask most of my questions, but just so I'm clear, who is bringing the application? Is this your application personally? Is this Preservation of Long
No,
Island?
I'm bringing it on behalf of myself,
Okay.
yes.
And Preservation of Long Island is involved by Tara Kuby?
No, Preserving Long Island, yes, she is, they are also a well-known advocacy group on Long Island.
Oh, sure, no.
Yes.
We all know who they are.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out what their involvement in this application is.
They partnered with me in submitting the application and doing the research on the historical significance of the building.
Okay. So before moving forward, I think we have a lot of information tonight. We have a lot of thoughts and concepts that may be outside of our purview, okay? What I'm going to say about Our Lady of Mercy, I personally was very sad to hear when it closed, the decision to close. I have no doubt, and I certainly recognize the value of the education and the fact that it is or was a young woman's school, and I think that's very important, and the Catholic education that it provided, I think, and that the other schools provide within that network is very valuable. I can certainly feel and I hear the emotion and the love that alumni and parents have for the organization. The attractiveness of the building itself. I personally think it's an attractive building. And the desire to want to protect something that, unfortunately, I think the most important part of it is gone. It's the school, it's the people, it's the education, it's those intangible pieces that unfortunately are not still residing in that building. Saying that, I think we have a very strict purview here on evaluating the building as a landmark. So a lot of that, I don't think goes into the equation. I think it goes into somewhat of the historical fabric, but there's certainly some other items. And I will say this, the fact that the owner of the property, whether they're local, not local, the fact that they're opposing the application is significant to me. When we have applications like this, what we always encourage an applicant to do is get together with the owner and find some common ground and some support where you can figure out how you can work together to move forward. And let me also point this out. If any building that is landmarked that status stays with the structure. The fact that you've got green space around it, landmarking is not going to protect that green space. That's just the unfortunate fact of it. So that is, something in the future that, the owner is free to develop as a right of ownership. So certainly don't want to limit any of the issues that we're going to talk about, but what I see as sort of the important issues for us as a Landmarks Preservation Commission is to evaluate the exterior integrity of the building, and that includes what changes and what renovations have gone on through the years and what additions have been made and how those additions tie into the original part of the building itself. The architect, in describing what Perot has done at Georgetown and Fordham, places that I'm very familiar with, it says that he's, his contributions, does that mean he actually was the architect for those buildings? Or did he say, I like that window over there, let's put a window there, and that's the extent of it? What is his involvement with these other buildings? The historical significance. I don't think anyone doubts what good things have happened at the school, but again, historical significance is, I think, a broader idea. And the style, it's described as Georgian Revival. Is the building as it stands right now, is it within what's really, accepted standards of this style right now? We're talking, the things that hit me about that are the additions that are, asymmetrical, and matching the building. And so, there are lots of things that, unfortunately, in my opinion, cut against landmarking. And I think the points that Mr. Mamina brought up are specific and speak to the Department of Interior standards of what it takes to landmark a building, to put that designation on it. So I know you said you can't, speak to some of those points, but I think you would need to, in order to really bring forward, I should say, a strong landmarks application, especially when we're asking the owner who opposes it to live with the landmark designation really forever. So, I would think that we need to speak to those 4 points that I just mentioned: exterior integrity, what the architect has done, what the historicals, the broader historical significance is, and whether this really fits within a Georgian Revival style as it exists right now. Yeah, so, I guess Tara Kubi is sort of your,
Or
use it loosely, your
Preservation
expert
Long
here,
Island,
right?
yes.
Subject matter expert.
Yeah, well, it's a good point, subject matter expert. So, I think we need some more on just some general statements on the integrity, historical significance. I think, some pointed, examples of how this fits, how this would really fit, and why it deserves to be landmarked as an architectural example. That's sort of just my initial thought and my comments here. So I'm not sure, just on the presentation tonight, whether there's really enough there to say, yes, we have exterior integrity, that the additions are consistent with the building, they're within the Georgian Revival style, is what we will generally accept it as. The architect's significance and really the historical significance. I would certainly like to see this building there for a long time. I don't have any problem with it at all. I think I I wish it was still the school. But as, you know, to landmark it, I think is a different analysis.
I'm sorry, so I'm not, are you saying the application is incomplete?
I'm just saying,
Or-
the areas that I think the opposition has pointed to, I
Yes.
think,
And will we be given an opportunity, I mean, to see the work that was prepared? I'm not familiar with how this process works.
when you say the work that was prepared, what do you mean?
Well, the rebuttals that he had submitted in terms
It's-
of the claims
it's
that
pu-
were
it's-
made, those are
Okay.
public documents now?
Public record now, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So if you can speak to any of those points right now to sort of, you know, help us get to the point, and again.
No, I mean, I'm not an
I haven't heard,
architect, so I'm
you know,
unable, and this
Okay.
information is just being presented to me right now. And like I had mentioned, unfortunately, my counterpart from Preservation Long Island, who is would be a counterpart to this gentleman, was unable to attend this evening. And so my understanding is whether that you would be, this was, you know, just you're considering it, but that there is an opportunity from this point forward to explore this, that there is enough presented that we need to learn more, that was my understanding of what this evening was about.
Okay, and I'm not sure if I'm there, if there's enough presented. So again, I'm only one member of a five-member panel here, so, you know, we can certainly, anyone else has any other comments, thoughts?
I can, you want to go down, the line and kind of all give our thoughts, or?
Sure. Yeah, whoever's ready.
Oh, I volunteered myself to go first.
There you go.
I'll start off by saying, I totally empathize with where you guys are coming from. It's clearly the type of building that has a lot of history and a lot of meaning. So I'm the architect on the panel. So for me, you know, it is really, really important. You know, the reason why I sit on this commission is because it's important to me to protect landmarks. When I'm on the opposite side of the bench, you know, and I don't necessarily prefer to be up here. I actually like to be down there better. When I am on your side, it's difficult because sometimes, you know, there are black and white criteria that work in our favor, and sometimes there are black and white criteria that don't work in our favor. In this case, like the chairman has kind of pointed out, there's a couple things working against you a little bit. I think one of the most powerful parts of your presentation was of talking about the interiors and talking about the culture and you know, the love and respect and everything that was, you know, taught in that space. The unfortunate side of that, the black and white side of that, is that we don't have jurisdiction over
Yes.
that, and it's painful.
Understand.
It's honestly painful to not be able to say and point to something and say, okay, this gives you a leg to stand on. From the architectural standpoint, I do agree with Mr. Mamina, and I do agree with the chairman that the master architect argument is maybe one of the weaker points. I would look for you to study the points that were made, you know, in that report, and look at the items that directly relate to what we have purview over. So, for example, one thing that was not presented tonight by either party was a site plan, and so we could kind of see, you know, the pictures say a lot, but they don't tell us everything, right? We don't know what it looks like, or what, you know, where our perspective is in relation to a site plan and topography and things of that nature, vegetation. So, for example, the earlier presentation I brought up, you know, we had 3 streets surrounding that property. So we have purview from that right-of-way perspective. So, you know, that's one area that you could look to study and maybe make a stronger argument. Another thing that I think is important for you to look at, and something that I do myself for these presentations, is looking at precedents. you know, what other projects on the island, you know, may be similar, or, you know, maybe Preservation Long Island has been successful in some ways on other buildings and been able to make a stronger case. I'll tell you that one of the precedents, I wouldn't say that it's a finite, again, black and white thing, but we really are strong about not forcing a landmark status on an owner that doesn't want it. You know, from your perspective or my perspective, if your neighbors were looking to landmark your house and you didn't want it, what does that mean to you? What does that do to you? What that means is you can't change a window, you can't paint your house, you can't put roofing on it, you can't put siding on it, you can't do anything without coming to us first. So there, you know, that's just one example of many where there's a financial burden on their part. And I'm not supporting them in this case, I'm just pointing out some of the precedents. And that's one of the reasons why we look at this very carefully, and we take certain things into consideration, because we can't put a financial burden on them without having a very strong case as to why the building needs to become a landmark. And then of course, you know, we did talk a little bit about subject matter experts, and I think bringing on, you know, if you want to continue this discussion and you want to move it forward, I think bringing your subject matter expert, you know, to the forefront, having them analyze the points that the sisters are making, and honestly come up with your own, you know, your own perspective. But again, focusing on what we have purview over specifically. And I think the chairperson made a really good point. We could potentially save these buildings, right? We can landmark the buildings. But the rest of that, all of that acreage and all that property is not unfortunately under this board's purview. So I think it behooves the contingent that you have and the group that you have to try and find that happy medium with the sisters organization, because it's not about just the buildings. And let's face it, like the gymnasium, you know, from an architectural standpoint, there really isn't much there, right? That actually bothers me about Long Island, is that for so many years we've just seen schools building boxes and boxes and boxes, and there's nothing there. There's no context, and it missed the mark, right? But for you, it's about saving that campus. It's, you know, it's the green space that was brought up before. It's about, you know, that icon, you know, in the area. So I think that there's more that we can't control at all, that you're looking to control, and finding that happy medium with them is, you know, probably you might have a better chance to a certain degree, because again, we can't control a lot of it. So those are my thoughts on the presentation, and I can appreciate and empathize with both sides, for the record.
I definitely see the historic significance here, and I don't think that should be downplayed in any way. And I agree that photos should be given from each road. You mentioned that there was a road behind and a road in the front, but that's part of our evaluation process, is to see what it looks like from the street, from those views. And those pictures would be very helpful for us to evaluate. The architectural significance, we have our architects here. I'm not an architect, but I just found it interesting that Gaudi was mentioned in one of them, and that I went to see that church in Barcelona, and there's nothing more asymmetrical. So I'm not sure whether, you know, one side of the building being different from the other side of the building as number of floors is really so significant to just say it's not architecturally relevant. So, but I think all of these things, I think there is something here but we need more to work with.
Okay.
And I would like to see an application be put in.
As a lifelong member of Syosset, I've got to know people from and about Our Lady of Mercy for quite a long time. And its history to me has been the quality of education that it has offered. That's always what stood out in the community, and the type of graduates that had come from that school. And that's always been to me the history of it. But I am having difficulty in finding a historic background as to the building other than that, which is a wonderful thing, not to take back anything whatsoever. That is a great history to have, that facility has done that. And I have to reach out and to think, I got concerned too when I heard that it was going to be sold. What's going to happen to this property? The fact that the sisters looked in and found another educational group that can come in and continue a high quality of education in our community, to continue and perpetuate the use of that building, I think is spectacular. So those are the other ways that I look at it. Historically, I find some things with the building that are not up to what this board is able to continue, but the history of that location, Our Lady of Mercy, will always be remembered, but I don't know if it has to be under a landmark status.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the history, an amazing history. I don't know, there's a lot of unanswered questions. You know, Mr. Mamina brought up something about a second-story addition. We talked about aluminum windows. This board's purview is just over the exterior that's visible from the street frontage. We heard that the front is actually the rear. I did go to the site. I went down Convent Road. I didn't know if it's visible from other roads, so it would be great to have that site plan so we can have our bearings. Mr. Mamina prepared a picture of the gym, and I wasn't sure at what angle that was at. We also, I just want to point out that we don't get to control the use, so even if the building is landmarked, it doesn't necessarily stay a school. You know, it can be another
Understood.
permitted use, so I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, no,
But-
that's understood.
Yeah, but thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, okay, you've heard our comments. I'll invite any other comments from the public. Anyone else would like to speak before we decide what to do here? And well, let me ask if there's anyone else who wants to speak before going forward. Okay. Okay, so I think we have, our decision here is whether there is enough to have an application proceed, and what would that, and let's just go through what that entails. If the application goes forward, the town will provide public notice to a certain radius
Correct.
around the building.
The
And then
town-
we have another hearing just like this, where similar presentations, I'm assuming, will be made, and then we make a decision, one way or another. If we decide not to go forward, that's not necessarily the end of it. An applicant always has, you can submit an application after a certain period of time, again, after, was it a year, I think it is?
Correct.
After
After a year.
a denial. So that's available on a denial. So either way we go, there's you know, certainly not the end. All right. So where I am on this is, I don't think there's enough to go forward in the face of the opposition, and that's where I am. So I would move to not have the application go forward. If I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. So we have a 4-1, we have a majority of not proceeding with the application.
That's correct.
Okay. That's where we are. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and I appreciate everyone's contribution tonight. Thank you. Okay, with that, we have no more items on the agenda, and move to conclude the meeting. Second?
Second.
Okay, in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. That's it for tonight.